go to whatever you're doing today. We hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to another session in the soft and system side to say where myself and my good friend Jason talk all about how you can match all the process, all the fun elements to the actual amazing touch points that you need to deliver when you're working with your customers to give them a great experience, to get a good sale, and make sure you solve their problems for them. And today, myself and Jason are going to be talking about what you need to do to have a great end of year. So, with that, let's just have a chat in 2 minutes. Well, hello, Jason. How are
Hey,
you doing today?
very good indeed. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this conversation because it's so very important. It's one of the things that you should be doing constantly throughout the year. And now, especially for the last quarter, we're not hit the last quarter yet, but that's what planning is all about. You do it beforehand, not panic and do it at the time and go, well, I'm going to fluff my way through this last quarter and put my finger up in the air and just see where I go. No, that's not what happens. If you look at the retail industry as an example, they're planning way ahead in advance. They've done all the design work. They're probably on spring of next year already and gone way past Christmas and all of that big time for the retail. But that's all well and true. But what about ourselves? What about adding more value forward for the last quarter of the year, which is imperative, especially when you're having a challenging year, when things are up or down and it's a very versatile market. Are we going into recession? Are we not going into recession? It's one of those strategies that you have to do now. If you haven't done it, listen, do it now. And I'm saying it, do it now, because if you just leave it, oh, we're all good. So August is a quiet month and quite seasonal, and I know it's going to happen in the next month. How do you know? Where's your crystal ball? Where's your data? Where's your research? What has to happen for you to go out and achieve your goals, your sales for the next quarter? What has to happen? What do you need to do?
Mm.
It's not what at the moment, in the moment, it's now your future planning, and you should really have done it already in place. What do you think?
Absolutely, Jason. And I'm gonna tell a story about a company I worked with a number of years ago. They phoned me up in November, right? The end of November. They told me they were way behind on their targets. And they asked me, could I come in and do a bit of work for them? So I went in, I had a bit of space, and I started looking at the targets, looking at the figures, and then look at what they said they were going to do versus their actual. And then I said, tell me, where did you get these figures from? Were your targets, right? And they go, well, we just put 5% on what we said we'd do last year at this time of year. I said, what makes you think you could even do that? Well, we just had a good year last year and we thought this year would be the same. And I said, well, look, first of all, you cannot predict the future unless you build it yourself. You cannot assume what worked today will work tomorrow. So to your point, Jason, the planning, yes, it should happen the previous year, but then you should be building the activities all the way through the course of the year and acting on them, tweaking them to make them better and better. So really, if I was to talk about planning at this time of year, if you've done your work all the way through, this should be a very simple job. It's really just a step back and just let's see how we can really flourish. How can we really finish this year on a high? What
Mhm.
else can we do for our customers? But unfortunately, Jason, that's not what happens. We have to really dig deep and go, okay, where did we go wrong? What do we need to do? How do we pick up the pieces? But then, even still, Jason, there's always the opportunity. If you plan and execute and tweak, you can deliver because there's always opportunities to deliver more, do more, but you really have to be strategic about it and build on it. But I believe, Jason, we were talking about this just before the call about when is a good time. I was saying I start my planning for the next year in the middle of the year. At the end of June, I start my pre-planning for the following year. And I spend a few months working on my mission, what my purpose is, what I believe is good for me inside, and then building, well, what does that look like? What do I want to achieve? How can my mission and vision align? And then build a strategy. So I think it's the perfect time now, Jason, to really step back. Anyone in a leadership role in business to step back and figure out how can we finish this year strong? Even take, and a big part of that for me, Jason, is take all the lessons learned that didn't go well and build forward there, learn from those mistakes. And then what worked well, do more of. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely concur. And adding a little bit more to that is to have and design your plan with a few curveballs, because we know that there's going to be a few curveballs. A deal will fall flat on its face for whatever reason. They don't have the money, they don't have the budget, they don't have this, that, and the other until next year, and everything is in a freeze at the moment. I know a lot of companies, the big multinationals, are in a recruitment freeze at the moment. So that can affect you, and it's just a sudden thing like that. What are you going to do on top of that to just change your strategy? Or you should already have that accompanying strategy to navigate your way through that. Just say, look, okay, I planned for X amount, but maybe I need to over plan because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have we don't know how the world is going to be. There will be some challenges down the line. Everyone said, as I already said, there will be a recession. Who knows? Hopefully it won't happen, or it's just a soft one. But expect the worst and get the best. So maybe you might need to over plan it in some ways. We weren't expecting a few years back to have COVID-19, were we? So that would have that threw everyone's planning completely out of sync. So what do we need to do to pivot? How do we need to do to pivot? A lot of people use those acronyms of SMART and all the other things. Okay, if it works, use it and utilize it, but make sure that plan is across the month, of the year, the quarter, or wherever you are. But we are talking about the most aggressive time of the year, and we have to look at seasonal challenges and changes as well.
Yeah, no, totally agree, Jason. And just to add to that, as you said, we don't know what's looming in the near future. So, like, what's coming from the board of directors, from the actual leaders in the business, they're going to be saying to their sales leaders and sales managers and teams, you need to do what you got to do. You're going to have to really go above and beyond. And they could even put out this, you need to get an extra 20% on your targets to end the year, so we can build that war chest for what could go wrong next year, Jason. So for me, one of the big elements for the end of the year is protection. How can you protect what you've got, what sales you've got? How can you protect your customers, right? That's the first thing you need to do, is what's that protection, so you know, yes, we can predict that element of the future, which again, as I said, Jason, you can predict the future if you build it, right? So protect it. That's number one. And then you start looking, well, what do we need to do to actually increase our targets, or like naturally, organically, and systematically, in terms of what else can we do? And I always look at the number of drivers that in a marketplace. Can we do a special offer? Can we work, if you have suppliers, for example, where we can reduce the cost of supply? We'll take a hit a little bit, the suppliers take a hit, reduce that cost, do an extra sales cycle for a seasonal maybe, or something like that, to increase an extra cycle in your traditional cycles. That's an extra sales cycle you can get. But also, Jason, in terms of, like looking at, well, if you had a product that's, say, to keep it simple, €1,000, right? What can you do to get it to €1,200, but actually add another 40 to 50% value on top of it? So how can you increase the value at a very cost-effective price that will make you an extra 20% in your margins? So there's a lot of different things, Jason. And the resistance that I get is that we can't knock on any more doors because we've saturated the marketplace.
Yeah, I hear
It's
that.
only one part, Jason. And that's you need to really think outside the box. And I think this time of year is a fantastic opportunity to start thinking outside the box. It said protect, to drive, and build forward.
I always like to say, have you really saturated the market? Let me have a look at your deal book. Let me have a look at your CRM. Let me have a look at what you've done and just see how realistic it is, because we know, and I know, and I've worked with a lot of salespeople over my time, what they say is real. And then you dig a little bit deeper, you can always uncover stuff and go, well, look, you've only dealt in that area. What have you done specifically in that area that you're saturating? Oh, I've hit everyone. I've knocked on every door. I've called everyone. Have you really? Let's have a look. Oh, okay. So you've only done 40%. So your motivation is down. So let's have a look at that. And let's have a look at a strategy to actually increase your motivation, obviously, one thing. But let's have a look at a way that we can package deals so you make it a little bit more attractive to the customer. Exactly what you've said, and repackage, repurpose, and again, work with your marketing teams here so that there might be an email campaign to get some soft leads coming through. There might be an SEO. There might be some other strategy that you hadn't thought of that is going to help to increase awareness so you can get some soft leads. Another thing I was going to suggest is have a look at your deal book. Have a look at the deals that went wrong, or the deals that you didn't get across the line, and go back to them, and go back to the people, the customers that went elsewhere. Hopefully they don't, but let's be realistic about this. Let's have a look at those and then call them up again. I worked with a company this year and last year and the year before, and in their cellar or below where the main plot, they had files and files and files of customers, old customers. But that is people to go after again and go and speak to again. When you say I've exhausted the marketplace, there's no one else. There is other stuff there if you can be bothered to find it. And like I said, that we had a look at it was all on paper, actually. It hadn't been put onto the CRM. So we looked at that and we went, there you go. Attack that. Warm lead again, because they already were a customer of yours. They went elsewhere. They already know who you are. So a really good way of coming back in and working with your marketing team to just build up a new strategy to approach that.
Yeah, no, Jason, I'm just cringing in my boots listening to that story about leaving old customers. There's no such thing as old customers.
Yeah.
They're like you should always be having customers. The goal is to create more business with existing customers, Jason, and not to have piles of old customers that, like, obviously it's a great opportunity, but they're just leads and business left on the table. And you cannot leave anything on the table in this world. You can't leave anything to chance, Jason. And it's a really good call out. Like, so you really look at all the avenues you have existing today, old sales, old leads, old customers. What can you do to bring them back as real customers? And again, Jason, I always believe in that word feedback. What did you do wrong? Because I don't believe with customers, if you're in the right market, you're talking to the right people, you get to the level of building a proposal, they're in the market for something, Jason. Yeah. It's not that they're not buying, they're just not buying from you. So what did you do wrong? Where did it go wrong along that? So you can maybe rescue it, go back to them if they haven't gone with a competitor, or make sure that never happens again. But so, Jason, just so many things that you can do. And we're talking about the now, Jason, coming up to the end. You should be doing this every 3 months. Yeah. Like, this is, if you were doing this at the end of March, you wouldn't be in this situation now, if that makes sense. But again, anything is possible if you actually sit down and strategically, you said, bring your marketing team in, get your sales team, get that message, do promotions, create an atmosphere, create an environment, and get more sales. But you cannot just, as you said, put your finger. You cannot leave things to chance, because again, we don't know. The future is, we know now, Jason, the future is not like known. We don't know what's going on. We have to make, I always say, especially you and I work for ourselves, we have to make hay while the sun shines. You know, we can't, if we don't do this, Jason, I know it's natural for us to do these things because we have to pay mortgages, right?
Yeah,
If
exactly.
we're not protected by a business or a team or anything. This comes naturally to solopreneurs
The
because there's no
question
choice.
is, Shay, why aren't people doing this
Yeah.
in their teams? You get paid a comfortable salary to do stuff and to go and get sales in. But why aren't you doing this? Why they just it flabbergasts me. There are some wonderful people out there, and I'm not saying that to absolutely everyone, but it's just so important to actually do this. It's just one of those things. Bring the team in, bring your sales manager in, bring everyone in so they collaborate. And while I was thinking of that, you know, some deals that didn't go through the line, give it to someone else to actually go and do it, and hopefully they could do the same, you know, or tag team with someone
Yeah.
and plan the strategy of saying, well, you got that area, I've got that area, that didn't work for me, that didn't work, let's plan to work together over the next quarter so we both achieve and our team achieves and we all achieve. So sometimes you have to, when in your meetings, it is about numbers, but if it is now that you're planning, get around for an hour, 2 hours, a day. That day is gold for you. A lot of research out there suggests that planning is only done they might just do an hour here or there in some small organizations, but it should be done consistently just to steer the ship back on track if it goes off a little bit.
Yeah, and I totally agree, Jason. And like, as you know, I do a lot of strategy work like yourself,
Mm,
and even for business strategy, and a lot of that revolves around sales, right? Because that's the lifeblood of any business, getting
of course.
repeat business, having good customers, growing your customer portfolio, right? That is super important. So like, I always like when I work with customers, when I'm doing strategy work, to your absolute point, Jason, once you build that, like as I talked about myself, my mission, my vision, then you build your strategy to stay on the line of that vision. And you're going to build your strategy to get there, Jason. You do
Mm,
that big exercise once. And that's what a lot of companies can do, but they forget the rest. They just think now we've done it and it's just going to magically happen. No, you have to then build that what you believe is the right first draft of a plan to achieve, which won't be right, by the way. Then you have to build the execution and do the execution and tweak, tweak, tweak until you get closer to it, Jason. But here's the thing, when you do that and continue it, strategy becomes really easy because you've continued, like it's just the plan and the execution are just an extension of that strategy work. And then everything becomes visible. You will see if your strategy is realistic. Is it the right? Is it still valid? Do you need to tweak? And you'll do this during the course because you've built the momentum. It's just a problem that I see is they do that away day, as you talk about, Jason, which is super important. But
yeah.
then they just shake hands, go off, had a bit of food, a few drinks, and that's brilliant. They put it on a piece of paper. And then what I call the ostrich syndrome, they put their hand in the sand and expect it to work, you know? And that's the biggest problem I see. They don't continue that extra piece.
Yeah, I think that continuous work and pivot and adjustment at all times because you don't know what's going to happen. And again, I've seen exactly the same thing. Wonderful day out. That was excellent. Let's put it onto the CRM. But maybe every week you go, well, how are you getting on with the new strategy? What's going on? Let's have a look at the statistics. Let's have a look at the data. The data is the one that's going to give you the right information. We're all we have the technology around us, and I'm probably going to sound like the $6 million man, probably showing my age a little bit now, but we have the technology behind us to work in our favor, and we can pivot because it will tell us how well we're doing, or if we're steering slightly adrift to where we need to be. So let's get back in with the plan. And let's look at something else that we can possibly do to make sure that we all hit our goals and we all get together on a weekly town hall or weekly huddle or whatever you want to call it within your team, within your sales team. communication is absolutely critical between you, your team members, your sales manager, your sales director, or your CEO, depending on the size of the organization. We all need to achieve, and we all need to overachieve. And I like to, when I put my plan in, I like to put it slightly higher to where I need it, actually need it. So
Cool.
I know where I need to go, which is there, and this is where I'd love to be. So in my head, I put an extra target in there, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'll overachieve.
Well, see, that's it, Jason. And to be honest, if I was a sales leader, if I was doing work with a sales team now, right, at this time of year, I wouldn't be waiting for the leaders of the business to come to tell me or the sales leader, you need to do an extra 20% for the next 3 months. This will be my intention with the team. Let's build a plan. Let's build a strategy and turn it into a plan that will achieve that 20% without anyone telling us. And to your point, Jason, two reasons why I do that. First of all, I believe it's very achievable because when you build a very good, holistic, grounded plan, looking at all the drivers, not just one, you will achieve it. But second of all, the further you set your targets, the higher you will achieve naturally. So even if you don't get to 20%, you've got 15%, and that still looks very good. That's still a fantastic end to the year in my book.
Just one last thing. It's just make sure that we come into silly season, which is Christmas.
Yes.
And by judging by Ireland and the UK, people switch off around middle of the month. You might get a little bit lucky at the last week towards Christmas, but people's brains, the buyers' brains, start to switch off and they're in party mode or whatever it might be. And you just have to make sure that you have everything in a row that you can achieve your goals, that you know that you're ahead of plan, because you know what's going to happen. It happens every year and everyone starts to forget this. People switch off between middle of December.
Well, that's a fantastic call out, and that's a really good thing, Jason. When you're doing this strategy day at this time of year, you need to build that into your equation as well. So look, Jason, we're up on time, right? Yeah. So if you were to sum it up in one point, right, and I'll hold you to 1 point this time, what would be the one piece of advice you would say to sales leader at this time of year?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
There we go. There we go. Love it, right? And you kept to 1.2, right? My point is I would challenge sales leaders to look for that extra 20% over the next 3 months and work with the team, not just say, go out and do it, build a plan together holistically and collaborate well. So look, thanks, Jason, as always, for a great session. There's always so much to talk about when it comes to these conversations. There's so much in sales. I always believe sales is the hardest part of business. So much to talk about. So look, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this session, and hopefully we'll see you again this time next week for the Soft and System Side to Sales. Thanks, Jason, and thank you.